exploded once more. All over X yesterday, you had people not just from the UK, but America in disbelief.
This grooming gang survivor calls what happened to her anti-Western, religious and racist abuse.
When I was a victim, I was raped multiple times, I was beaten, I was tortured, and throughout all of that I was constantly being racially abused. There's a constant barrage of you're a white slag, you're a white whore, you're a fucking gory, which is the Pakistani word for white person. The religious abuse is real. I was taught it as a type of othering, like our Pakistani girls are good and pure and they cover themselves, they're virgins till they're married, but white girls are trash, they're whores, they all sleep with hundreds of men, they're all worthless.
The situation.
Yeah, at all. So I just watched that by Richard IV. I didn't watch all of it, but I watched enough to get to the point. Horrific. Obviously, I've covered this before, and it's absolutely disgusting. It really is. There's a good comment down there saying that this isn't new. It's probably been going on since they first started driving in the 60s. But what I wanted to cover was, for those of you who watch my channel, you've already heard this. But for those of you who haven't, because obviously got quite a few new people watching now, and I just wanted to share my own experience, if you like. I've actually seen it happen firsthand 6 years ago when I first started doing photography. Obviously, it's not only a different world. Obviously, I'm a different person to what I was 6 years ago now. So when I first started getting used to getting out on the ground, on the streets, seeing what street life is about, quite naive to the world in some ways back then, but I've seen a lot over the last 6 years up and down the country. One person I wanted to really cover was Mr. Nigel Watson. He did a video. I can't find the video, but he did do a video once, and it really wound me up because he believed that it was made up. The media made it up, that it was being used to cause more friction, more division between communities. And there is some truth in that, of course there is. It would make sense that they have created this situation where they've imported all these people and now they're stirring the pot and winding us all up against each other. That does make sense, but then again, what I'll share with you is my own, what I've actually seen with my own eyes taking place. So 6 years ago I was in Burnley around Halloween time, and I think I got there, must have been quite dark. I'd had a little wander around the deserted town, deserted high street. It's a funny little town, Burnley. There's not really that much there. It's quite small. But anyway, this funny little coat of arms up here by the mall, just round here. It's like got a stalk or something on top of it. I photographed that and a few other things, and then walked back to my car. I parked up, so down Curzon Street and went down past Marks and Spencer's, which takes me on to St James Street, I think it's called. So I walked down here, and I think I parked up just where this, just let me confirm it, a bit further on maybe. Yeah, so I parked up a bit further down the road, just on the side here. Yeah, there we go. So I parked up here. I don't really know, Sunbul Kebab House, if that's nearby, but it's still full of cold. But as I came down the hill, I noticed, so when I got around here, I noticed on the right hand side there was a taxi looking firm with a crown above it. So back then it would have been Crown's Taxis, but they are located on Church Street now, where it could be a different company. But there was these three schoolgirls in there, and it was about 4:30. It wasn't, that, it was quite a while after school would have finished. I thought, that's weird. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to sit in my car, which was parked up just around here, and wait and see what happens. And if they get dragged out kicking and screaming, I'll have to get involved. So I sat in my car, 10 minutes passed by. The first taxi pulls up, beeps the horn, out comes one of the girls. Oh, they're all on iPhones as well. They've all got nice new iPhones. And this first girl, in she went, off it went. The next one pulled up. There was one sort of big fat Asian lad, Pakistani lad, Bangladeshi. in the taxi. Beeped his horn. Out comes this next one. And they're all around 14, 15, these girls were. The final one is the one that sticks in my mind probably the most. Not because anything bad happened, it confirmed my thoughts that... anyway, so it pulled up and the Pakistanis at the front of the taxi beeped the horn. She came out laughing and joking because she was in the middle of a conversation with the Asian lad who was behind the desk. He was probably middle-aged, he was in his 40s, I reckon. And as she went back in, the Pakistanis at the front beeped the horn again to come out. They weren't being aggressive, it was kind of like all joking sort of manner, like, hurry up. And in she got, laughing and giggling, and and I just sat there with my face bright red as it drove off. And there is an element of there isn't actually an element of regret to me. I'm lying if I say that, because I think I did it right. I sat, I observed. I knew that if I got involved, I suppose it makes me sound like a coward, really, actually saying that. But basically, having seen 3 girls, I think, which came out not long before, I knew that they would have been groomed and brainwashed into believing that their abusers were actually their sort of protectors. And anyone who dares to try and... it's like the Matrix, anyone who dares to try and interfere with their system, they'll fight against it. So it made more sense to sit and watch. But what I was to learn later on about Burnley, with it being such a small town, the police station, it's only a couple hundred metres around the corner. It's not far away. But yeah, this is now Padium Cars. Whether or not it's the same management, it's 6.5 years on now. But I do notice there's a lot of like grill houses and kebab houses all down this way. So they are a heavy influence in Burnley because of the old silk mills when they first came over. And but it's just what I saw. If anyone ever comes across that, my advice would be to go on Facebook Live and film it. There's no other way. You can't do anything violent because the police will be after you. The best thing to do is film it, stick it online for all the world to see, and who knows where it goes from there. A story that I'll share with you as well is when I was in Huddersfield about 2 years ago. I started chatting to this homeless woman. She was a bit crazy, has to be said. She was shouting and screaming when I first went over, and I thought she was having a go at me for taking photos of, because I had my tripod up. It was night time. I was doing some like long exposures of the car lights under the viaducts, things like that. She started chatting to me, and she was telling me about a lot of the Asian doctors in the area are involved with organ harvesting, of white people. Whether or not it's true or whether it's just the babblings of someone with a few mental health problems, I don't know, but I wouldn't really think that's far-fetched, to be honest, because a lot of them don't like us. Birds of a feather, after all, people stick to their own. We don't really... So a lot of the Asians I've met, they can be quite friendly and smiley, but you don't really know what goes on in their communities. And even personal experience, I remember as a kid, I used to box in Normanton, which is the Asian area of Derby. That's where the boxing clubs are. One of the boxing clubs I went to, I remember I was only about 12, maybe 11, and this lad was about 15. He was an Asian lad, and obviously he sort of got me up to the boxing ring, which was upstairs, and basically just beat me up. And that was that. But I do remember enough times where it's quite obvious that they don't like the people who are native to this country, which makes you wonder why they've come here, really. But yeah, there's a few things. So more than anything, just for those who don't believe it's real, believe it's some made-up media narrative to cause division. I'm talking about the lefties, and I suppose with Nigel Watson, perhaps people who have been detached from that world, who haven't seen these horrible places like Bradford and Rochdale and Oldham. Ironically, you're from Rochdale, but why didn't you go and live there? I'm sure you'd see enough horrors going on in them sort of areas, Rochdale, Oldham. But you won't. You'll stay out in Finland, in a nice detached house, far away from all this nightmare, preaching how you're the saviour, the leader of the anti-Maxine's. Sorry to have to go at you, but it winds me up people who think this kind of stuff is just completely made up. there's all sorts of horrors that goes on in this country now because of obviously what's been inflicted on it over the last 70 odd years, 80 odd years. Yeah, before I ramble any further, I think that's enough. So cheers.